Section 9 of Weird Tales, Jules de Grandin, Volume 2, by Seabury Quinn. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Grinning Mummy, Part 1. "Is that you, de Grandin?" I called, as the front door's slam was followed by the sound of quick footsteps on the polished boards of the hall floor. "No," an irate voice responded, as my friend, Professor Frank Butterbaugh, strode into my study. "'Pologize for comin' in without knockin', Trowbridge," he offered in excuse, "but I'm too confounded mad to pay attention to the amenities right now. Look at this, will you? Look at this damn impertinent," he broke off, choking with choler, and gave the paper another bellicose flourish. "Of all the unqualified, unmitigated—" "What is it?" I queried, reaching for the offending document. "What is it?" he echoed. "It's an outrage, a disgraceful outrage, that's what it is. Listen to this." Snatching at the wide black ribbon looped about his neck, he dragged a pair of gold and tortoiseshell pince-nez from the pocket of his white waistcoat, thrust them on his high-bridged nose with a savage, chopping motion, and read in a voice crackling with indignation: "Dear Frank Butterbaugh, The Beeches, Harrisonville, New Jersey. Dear Dr. Butterbaugh, the tombstone you ordered for your lot in Rosedale Cemetery has been prepared in accordance with your directions, and is now ready for delivery. We shall be obliged if you will indicate when you will meet our representative at the cemetery and direct where you wish the monument placed. In accordance with your order, the stone has been inscribed: Dr. Francis Butterbaugh, August 23rd, 1852, October 18, 1926. Cave Iram Deorum. Very truly yours, El Grace Monument Works. "Well," I began, but he shouted me down. "Well, the devil!" he rasped. "It isn't well. I got that note in today's afternoon delivery, and came into town hot-foot to give the El Grace people boiling hell for writing me such balderdash. Found they'd shut up shop for the day, so got John El Grace on the phone at his house and made the wires sizzle with the dressing down I gave him, and he had the brass-bound, copper-riveted gall to tell me he'd acted on my orders. My orders, d'ye understand? Claimed to have my written authority for preparing a monument for my family plot, and—" "And he didn't?" I cut in incredulously. "You mean this letter is the first inkling you had of a tombstone?" "Sulphur and brimstone, yes," the professor yelled. "D'you think I wouldn't have remembered if I'd ordered a headstone for my own grave? That's what it amounts to, for my name's on the thing. And what the triple-horned devil would I have had today's date cut on it for? Today's October 18th, in case you've forgotten it. And why in the blazing Tophet should I have anything as silly as Cave Iram Deorum on my tombstone, even if I had a rush of bone to the head and ordered the damn thing?" "Wait a moment, Professor," I asked. "I'm a little rusty on my Latin. Cave Iram Deorum, let's see what that means." "It means, beware the wrath of the gods, if that's what you're after," he shot back. "But that's of no importance. What I'd like to know is who the devil dared order a tombstone in my name." "Pardonnez-moi, monsieur. Perhaps it is that someone makes le mauvaise plaisanterie. How do you say it? The practical joke? Upon you." Jules de Grandin, very debonair in faultless dinner clothes, a white gardenia in his lapel and a slender ebony walking-stick in his hand, stood smiling at us from the study doorway. "Trowbridge, mon cher," he turned to me. "I did let myself in without knocking, in order to save the excellent Nora the trouble of opening the door, and I could not well escape overhearing this gentleman's extraordinary statement. Will you not tell me more, monsieur?" He regarded the professor with his round, childishly wide blue eyes. "More? More?" Professor Butterbaugh barked. "That's all there is. There isn't any more. Some fool with a perverted sense of humor has forged my name to an order for a tombstone. By Set and Ahriman, I'll be hanged if the El Grace people get a red-headed cent out of me for it. Let him find out who ordered it and charge it to him. Pardon, monsieur. I did hear you refer to the malignant deities of Egypt and Persia. Is it that you—" "Oh, excuse me," I broke in, coming to a tardy recognition of my social obligations. "Professor Butterbaugh, this is Dr. Jules de Grandin of the University of Paris. Dr. de Grandin, this is Professor Frank Butterbaugh, who headed—" "Parbleu, yes," de Grandin interrupted, crossing the room hurriedly and seizing Butterbaugh's hand in both of his. "No need for further introductions, friend Trowbridge. Who has not heard of that peerless savant, that archaeologist second only to the great Bussard? The very great honour is entirely mine, monsieur." Professor Butterbaugh grinned a trifle sheepishly at the Frenchman's enthusiastic greeting, fidgeted with the Monument Company's letter and his glasses a moment, then reached for his hat and gloves. "Must be movin'," he ejaculated in his queer, disjointed way. "Got to get home before Alice gives me double-jointed fits. Keepin' dinner waitin', you know. Glad to have met you." He held out his hand almost diffidently to de Grandin. "Mighty glad. Hope you and Trowbridge can come over tomorrow. Got an unusual sort of mummy I'm figuring on starting to unwrap tonight. Like to have you medics there when I expose the body." "Ah," de Grandin assented, helping himself to a cigarette. "This mummy, then. It is different?" "You bet it is," Butterbaugh assured him colloquially. "Don't believe there's another like it in the country. I've only seen one other of the kind. The one supposed to be Ra Nefer, in the British Museum, you know. It has no funerary statue, just linen and bitumen moulded to conform to the body's contours. Had the devil's own time getting it out of Egypt, too. Arabs went on strike half a dozen times while we were digging. Egyptian government tried to collar the body, and to top the whole business, a gang of swell-headed young Copts sent me a batch of black hand letters, threatening all sorts of penalties, unless I returned the thing to its tomb. Catch me giving up a relic literally worth its weight in gold to a crew of half-baked Johnnies like that." "But, monsieur le professeur," de Grandin urged, his diminutive blonde moustache bristling with excitement, "this letter, this tombstone order, it may have some relation." "Not a chance," Butterbaugh scoffed. "Egypt's halfway around the world from here, and I've no more chance of running foul of those chaps in this town than I have of being bitten by a crocodile. But—" his lips tightened stubbornly and a faint flush deepened the sun-tanned hue of his face, "but if all the Egyptian secret societies from Giza to Beni Hassan were camped on my front lawn, I'd start unwrapping that mummy tonight. Yes, by jingo, and finish the job too, no matter how much they howled." He glowered at us a moment as though he expected us to forbid him, jammed his knockabout hat over his ears, slapped his thigh pugnaciously with his motoring gloves, and strode from the study, his back as stiffly straight as though a ramrod had been thrust down the collar of his Norfolk jacket. "Something terrible has happened." "Eh? What's that?" I muttered stupidly into the transmitter of my bedside telephone, still too immersed in sleep to understand the import of the message coming over the wire. "This is Alice Butterbaugh, Dr. Trowbridge," the fluttering voice repeated. "Alice Butterbaugh, Professor Butterbaugh's niece. Something dreadful has happened. Uncle Frank's dead." "Dead?" I echoed, swinging my feet to the floor. "Why, he was over to my house this evening, and—" "Yes, I know," she interrupted. "He told me he stopped to show you that mysterious letter he got from the El Grace Company. He was well enough then, doctor, but I think he was murdered." "Can you come right over?" "Of course," I promised, hanging up the receiver and hustling into my clothes. "De Grandin," I called, opening his door on my way to the bathroom to wash the lingering sleep from my eyes with a dash of cold water. "De Grandin, Professor Butterbaugh is dead. Murdered, his niece thinks." "Mille tonnerres!" The Frenchman was out of his bed like a jack-in-the-box popping from its case. "The half of 1 little minute, friend Trowbridge." His silk pajamas were torn from his slender white body, and he struggled furiously into a white crape union suit. "Do you but wait until I have applied the water to my face, the brush to my hair, and the wax to my moustache. Nom de cochon! Where is that wax?" He had drawn on socks, trousers, and boots as he talked, and was already before the washstand, a bath sponge dripping with cold water in one hand, a face towel in the other. "Fly, my friend, hasten to the telephone and advise the good Sergeant Costello what has occurred," he admonished. "I would that he meets us at the Professor's house. Pardieu, if some scoundrel has taken the life of that so great scholar, I, Jules de Grandin, will track him down and deliver him to justice, yes, though he take refuge beneath the throne of Satan himself." 10 minutes later we were riding furiously toward the sinking moon over the smooth macadam road which led to the beaches. Her pretty yellow hair in attractive disorder, an orchard negligee drawn over her filmy night-dress, and French-heeled satin mules of the same colour on her little white feet. Alice Butterbaugh met us in the wide reception hall of the Beeches, a very much frightened and entirely inarticulate butler at her elbow. "Oh, Dr. Trowbridge," she sobbed, seizing my arm in both her small hands, "I'm so glad you got here. She started back, folding the negligee across her diaphanous night-robe as she became aware of de Grandin's presence. "This is Dr. Jules de Grandin, my dear," I introduced. "He is a member of the faculty of the University of Paris, and has been stopping with me for a while. He will be of great assistance in case it develops your uncle met with foul play." "How do you do, Dr. de Grandin?" Alice acknowledged, extending her hand. "I'm sure you will be able to help us in our trouble." "Mademoiselle," de Grandin bowed his sleek blonde head as he pressed his lips to her fingers, "commandez-moi, suis prêt." "And now," his air of gallantry fell from him like a cloak as he straightened his shoulders, "will you be good enough to take us to the scene and tell us all?" "I'd gone to bed," the girl began, as she led the way toward her uncle's library. "Uncle Frank was terribly excited all afternoon after he received that letter, and when he came back from Harrisonville he was still boiling inwardly. I could hardly get him to eat any dinner. Just as soon as dinner was over he went to the library, where he has been keeping the latest addition to his collection of mummies, and told me he was going to begin unpacking it. I went to bed about 11:30 and called good night to him through the library door as I passed. I went to sleep almost immediately, but something, I don't know what, but I'm sure it was not noise of any kind, woke me up a few minutes after 2. I lay there trying to get back to sleep until nearly 3, then decided to go to the bathroom for a bromide tablet. As I walked down the passage, I noticed a light shining out of the library door into the lower hall, so I knew the door must be open. Uncle never left the door unclosed when he was working, for he hated to have the servants look in at him, and they would stand in the passage and stare if they thought he was doing anything with his mummies. It seemed to fascinate them. Knowing Uncle's habits, I thought he had gone to bed without shutting off the light, and I went down to turn it out. When I got here I found—" She paused beside the door with averted eyes and motioned toward the room beyond. Professor Butterbaugh lay on his back, staring with sightless dead eyes at the glowing globes of the electric chandelier, his body straight and stiff, legs extended, arms laying at his sides, as though he had fallen backward from an upright position and remained immovable since his fall. Despite the post-mortem flaccidity of his features, his countenance retained something of the expression it must have worn when death touched him, and, gazing at his face, it seemed to me he looked more startled than frightened or angry. Nowhere was there evidence of any sort of struggle. Not so much as a paper was disturbed on the big flat-top desk beside which the dead scientist lay, and the only witness testifying to tragedy was the still, inert remnant of what had been one of the world's foremost Egyptologists some 3 or 4 hours before. "Beg pardon, Miss Alice." The pale-faced manservant, trousers and coat pulled over his night-clothes, tiptoed toward the professor's niece. "There's a gentleman outside, a Sergeant Costello, from the police department." "The police?" The girl's pallid face went paler still. What are the police doing here? Who told them?" I don't know, miss," the serving man stammered. "I did notify the good sergeant, mademoiselle," de Grandin announced, looking up from beside the professor's body. "Send him to me at once, immediately, right away," he ordered the butler, and walked quickly to the door to greet the burly, red-headed Irishman. "Hola, my friend," he called as the detective crossed the hall. "We have here a wicked business to investigate. Some miscreant has struck down your famous fellow townsman from the back, and—" "From the back, is it?" Costello replied, looking meditatively at Butterbaw's supine form. "And how'd you make that out, Dr. de Grandin? Seems to me there are no marks of violence on the body at all, and the poor gentleman died from natural causes. Apoplexy, it was, belike. He was a peppery-tempered old divil, God rest his soul." "Apoplexy, yes," de Grandin agreed with a mirthless smile, "since apoplexy is only a general name for the condition more definitely called cerebral hemorrhage. Behold the cause of this apoplexy, my friend." Stooping, he raised the professor's head, pointing to the occipital region. Against the dead man's smoothly brushed iron-grey hair lay a stain of blood, scarcely larger than a 25-cent piece, and so meagre in its moisture that the Turkish rug on which the head had rested showed hardly any discoloration. Parting the hair, de Grandin showed a small, smooth-edged wound, about the calibre of an ordinary lead pencil, a bit of whitish substance welling up to the very edge of the opening, and all but stopping any blood flow from inside the head. "Gun?" Costello bent to examine the puncture. "I do not think so," the Frenchman replied. "Had a shot been fired from a pistol at close range or a rifle from a distance, the bullet would probably have gone out of the head. Yet there is only one wound here. Had a firearm of lower power, unable to drive the missile through the head, been used, the bone would have shattered at the point of entrance, yet here we have a clean-cut wound. No, my friend, this injury is the result of some hand-weapon. Besides, Mademoiselle Butterbaugh was in the house, as were also the servants, yet none recalls having heard a shot fired. Mademoiselle," he rose from his examination of the body, "you did mention that your uncle was unwrapping a certain mummy tonight. This mummy, where is it, if you please?" I don't know," the girl faltered. "I thought it was in here, but it is not," de Grandin supplied dryly. "Come, Miss Amie, let us search for this missing cadaver. There are times when the dead can tell us more than the living." We crossed the library, passed between a pair of heavy brocade curtains, and entered a smaller room walled with smooth plaster, its only furniture being a series of glass cases containing small specimens of Egyptiana, and a rank of upright mummy cases standing straight and sentinel-like against the farther wall. "Howly mither!" Costello exclaimed, his native brogue cutting through his acquired American accent, as he pointed one hand toward one of the mummy cases, signing himself piously with the cross with the other. The centre figure in the rank of mummies stood in a case somewhat taller than its fellows, and, unlike the others, was not hidden from view by a coffin lid, for the cover from its case had fallen to the floor, disclosing the mummy to our gaze. The body had been almost entirely denuded of its bandages, the face, arms, and lower portion of the legs having been freed, so that, had it been a living man instead of a corpse, neither walking nor the use of the arms would have been impeded by the linen bands which remained in place. This much I saw at a glance. but the cause of Costello's outcry was not plain until I had looked a second time. Then I added my amazed gasp to the big Irishman's exclamation, for in the right hand of the dead thing was firmly grasped a rod of polished wood, tipped by a hawk's head executed in metal, the bird's beak being some 3 inches in length, curved and sharp as the hooked needles used by upholsterers to sew heavy fabrics. Upon the metal point of the beak was a faintly perceptible smear of blood, and a drop of the grisly liquid had fallen to the floor, making a tiny, dark red stain at the mummy's desiccated feet. And on the mummy's face, drawn by the embalming process into a sort of sardonic grin, was another reddish smear, as though the dead thing had bent its lips to the wound inflicted by the instrument clutched in its dead hand. Pardieu, friend Trowbridge, I think we need look no farther for the weapon which took Monsieur Butterbaw's life, de Grandin commented, twisting the end of his moustache with a nervous gesture. Was this the mummy the professor was working on? Costello demanded, turning to the butler, who had followed us to the door of the specimen room. "Oh, my God!" the servant exclaimed with a shudder as he beheld the armed and sneering cadaver standing in its case, one mummified foot slightly advanced, as though the thing were about to step into the room in search of fresh victims. "Never mind the bawlin'," Costello ordered. "Answer me question. Was this the mummy Professor Butterbaugh was unwrappin' when it happened to him?" "I don't know, sir," the servant quavered. "I never saw the thing before, and so help me God, I never want to see it again. But I think it must be the one Dr. Butterbaugh had in mind, for there are 5 mummies there now, and this morning when I came in to open the blinds, there were only 4 standing against the walls, and one was laying on the floor over by the door." "Humph! I guess this is the one, then," Costello replied. "Go outside there and get the other servants. Tell 'em I want to question 'em, and don't tell 'em what you've seen here." De Grandin walked quickly to the grinning mummy and examined the pointed instrument in its hand minutely. "Très bien," he murmured to himself, giving the relic room a final appraising glance. "Aren't you going to look into those other mummy cases?" I asked as he turned to leave. "Not I," he denied. "Let Sergeant Costello busy himself with them. Me, I have other matters of more importance to attend to. Come, let us examine the servants." The cook, a large and very frightened negress, a diminutive and likewise badly frightened colored boy who attended the garden and acted as chauffeur, 2 white maids, both safely past the heyday of youth, and the butler composed the domestic staff of the Beeches. Costello marshalled them in line and began a series of searching questions, but de Grandin, after a single look at the crowd, approached the sergeant and excused himself, saying we would talk the matter over the following morning. "Thank you, sir," Costello acknowledged. "I take it kindly of ye to see that I got the first look in on this case before any of the newspaper boys had a chance to spoil it. I'll be coming over to your house tomorrow, and we'll all go over the evidence together, so we will." "Très excellent," de Grandin agreed. "Good night, Sergeant. I am not sure, but I think we shall soon have these murderers beneath the lock and key of your so efficiently strong jail." "Murderers?" Costello echoed. "Ye think there was more'n one of 'em, then, sir?" "Parbleu, yes, I know it," de Grandin responded. "Good night, mon vieux." "Well, Dr. de Grandin," Sergeant Costello announced as he entered my office the following afternoon, "we've got about as far as we can with the case." "Ah!" de Grandin smiled pleasantly as he pushed a box of cigars across the table. "And what have you discovered, cher sergeant?" "Well, sir," the Irishman grinned depreciatingly, "I can't rightly say we've found out much o' anything, precisely. For instance, we found that somebody forged Professor Butterbaw's signature to the letter to the El Grace Monument Works. We put it under a lens at headquarters today, and you can see where the name's been traced as plain as daylight." Yes, de Grandin encouraged. And have you any theory as to who forged that letter, or who killed the professor? No, sir, we haven't, the detective confessed. Between you and me, sir, that Miss Alice may know more about the business than she lets on. I wouldn't say she was exactly glad to see me when I come last night, and well, she hasn't been any too helpful. This morning, when I was putting the servants through their paces again, to see if there was any discrepancies between their stories they told last night and what they might be saying this time, she ups and says she, "Officer," she says, "you've been all over that before," she says, "and I'll not have my servants humiliated," she says, "by having you ask 'em every few hours which one of 'em killed me uncle." So I ups and says, "All right, miss. I don't suppose you have any suspicions concerning who killed him?" And she says, "Certainly not," just like that. And that was that, sir. Now, don't you be getting me wrong, Dr. de Grandin and Dr. Trowbridge. Miss Butterbaugh is a high-toned lady and all that, and I'm not making any wisecracks about her being guilty, or even having guilty knowledge, but—" The sharp staccato of my office phone cut his statement in half. "Hello?" I called tentatively as I lifted the receiver. "Sergeant Costello. I want to speak to Sergeant Costello," an excited voice demanded. "This is Schultz speaking." "All right," I replied, passing the instrument to the sergeant. "Hello?" Costello growled. "Yes, Schultz, this is Costello. What? When? Oh, it did it? Yes, you bet your sweet life I'll be right over, and you'd best get busy and cook up a sweet young alibi by the time I get there, too, young felly me lad. Gentlemen," he turned a blank face to us, "that was Schultz, the uniformed man I'd left on duty at the Beaches. He tells me that mummy, the one with a little pickaxe in its hand, has disappeared from the house, right before his eyes." "Tous les démons!" de Grandin cried, springing from his chair. "I expected this. Come, my friends, let us hasten, let us speed, let us fly. Parbleu, but the trail may not yet have grown cold." End of Section 9.